What is one mistake that you learned the most from?
Which do you think had a bigger impact, K-pop or K-dramas, on women being attracted to Asian guys? I gotta see how Rick reacts when his son is at 18 and is like, hey dad, I've been doing Muay Thai, I kinda wanna be a pro fighter. And see what you say. What are you gonna say?
Welcome to Unleash Mindset. Today, I have the honor of having Andrew Fung join us. To be fair, not sure if many of you know this, but my first social media content was with the Fung Bros. And now that we're doing YouTube podcasts, just felt there was no one better to give homage to the guys that actually introduced me to social media. So I'm excited to have Andrew here hanging out with us.
Dude, this is crazy. This is crazy to do a podcast in like a very nice car. No, but I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me on the show and setting off your podcast. Like this, it's an honor to sit down and talk with you. And obviously we've known you for a few years now and we've gotten pretty close. So I think there's a lot to talk about and I'd love to share my story and any sort of insight I may have or lessons that I've learned or even things about me that maybe we haven't shared online before. So yeah, I'm excited.
No, thank you.
Wait, did you ask me a question before?
Yeah,
that?
well, I was saying, share with me like kind of like the story. I'm excited to hear. You and your brother are constantly, obviously, traveling the world, interviewing so many people, trying incredible food, and onto like fashion brands. But I don't think anyone's really asked you about your story. So, love to hear your story. What is your story? And like your brother, what got you guys into social media? What was life like growing up? I believe you guys grew up in Washington State.
Yeah. We're from like the Seattle area, South Seattle area, like Kent more specifically. Which when I tell people, when I meet people in New York, that I'm like I'll be like, oh, where in Seattle are you from? They're like, oh, I'm from Bellevue, Kirkland, Seattle. I'm like, oh, I'm from Kent, and they're like, oh, you're from. I'm like, yeah. So there's some pride in that. I guess not that many Kent people move to New York, but. Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey. Me and my brother, I know he's not here right now. He's actually overseas as we film this. But, man, the journey of doing media and YouTube and building this brand and making all this content and having a very strong mission, it's been crazy over the past decade plus, and it's been very gratifying. And I guess to start, we've always had an interest in media, to be honest. So that's not something that came about recently, but we were doing music and like stand-up comedy, and then YouTube was popping up towards the end of like my college years, and then we just took the chance and we packed up our Honda Accord and then we drove down to LA, kind of like a typical Hollywood story, but not a typical YouTube story. A lot of YouTubers, they like blew up and explode with a fan base from their hometown and then they moved to LA.
Yep.
But we moved to LA to start our channel, so it's a little bit different. So I think that's why when we kind of became part of the 626 SGV community and we started making content about it, a lot of people assumed we were from there, which is understandable. But no, we were just very interested in the area and we found some type of connection and it was a special place, and obviously the food is amazing, and it's like this predominantly Chinese ethno-burb in Southern California, that's really close to LA, and so yeah, it was that's kind of how it started. And then I think, to put it, long story short, is like we always had a strong mission to talk and either dissect or navigate the conversation about Asian Americans. And like, so if you ask me my expertise, your expertise is one of your expertise is at least definitely finance and wealth management. My expertise, you ask me about Asian things.
Okay.
So you can ask me about Asian things and I should be able to have at least a somewhat of a thoughtful answer. So everything that we've ever done is surrounded around that. Of course, we've done sneaker content, basketball content that is unrelated to being Asian, but I think, as you can see on our channel, ultimately our niche, and I wouldn't even say business model, but how it's kind of panned out is just that we focus on Asian topics, all things Asian. Like that's almost what you could rename our channel to, all things Asian. So, and particularly obviously like strong Asian male voices, you know, always taking into consideration all sides, of course, but like that is what I would say that's like our specialty.
Wow. And what sparked that type of passion, commitment to being voices for Asian community, Asian males?
I think a lot of it comes from being from the exclave versus the enclave. You know, the Asian enclaves usually, typically, a kid grows up and like they feel more normal being Asian because most people, a lot of people around them are Asian, for example, or of any ethnicity, you know, any ethnic enclave, right? But growing up outside in the exclave, it's like you always know you're Asian and you're always representing Asians. So in a way, we've always been representing Asians ever since we were young because we were the minority growing up. And not just that, it's not that every kid who grows up in the exclave or grows up as a minority has that fire to represent, but I think part of our fire came from we wanted to do things. Like we wanted to be cool. We wanted to be out there. We were playing on the basketball team. We were playing football. We were making music. I was doing talent shows. Like we were kind of like, in a way, popular guys, but not really. You know, being Asian guys, I always still, even if people knew who I was, whether we were winning the Tolo Prince or whatever, or like, you know, taking leadership in high school, it was still like, you were still Asian. And I still felt like I was still kind of an outsider, even though I was very active and people knew like who we were. So I think that kind of feeling of being, I guess, underrated or underappreciated as an Asian guy, no matter what you did, was somewhat of a driving force.
Sure.
And always feeling like, hey, if I feel this way, I bet there's a lot of other people who feel this way too. And like, let's dive into this. And I got to give a big, obviously, shout out to my brother who, you know, he traveled around Asia and he's closer to the Chinese culture and he can speak better Mandarin and Cantonese than me. And so obviously him going on his travels during college and coming back and his passion for it, that was also helping fuel a lot of it too. So there's just, yeah. And then also it's like, I don't know. I don't know what I mean, is there a goal to solve where at some point we talk it so much that there's a solution and there's like a end to these things? I don't know.
Sure.
You know, but I still have fun and I still have a passion and an interest in delving into these topics, even these minute identities of even different Asians that are not even represented amongst Asians. They're a minority amongst the Asians.
Yep.
So you're a minority of a minority, you know, like Hmong people, for example, or something, you know, like we made a lot of content about them because it was an interest of ours and we're like, yo, these people are Asian too, but like a lot of other Asians literally don't know that much about them, you know? Yep. So yeah, I guess that's if that answers your question.
Yeah. So as you're talking about your childhood and your upbringing in Kent, Washington, to be fair, I never been to the state of Washington, so not Kent or Seattle.
It's good water, good air, good salmon.
I believe it. So was your life, and not to kind of like stereotype, recently my wife and I saw a movie, especially now that there's more promotion of Asian
products.
Asian product, Asian food, Asian cuisine, Asian culture. Yeah. But have you seen the movie Didi?
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about that movie? Was it kind of like childhood upbringing a little bit?
That movie takes place in
California.
I believe the Bay Area,
yep,
where the director's from. It was a really good movie, by the way. Aspects of it for sure. Yep. Aspects of that movie, but I mean, yes and no. Okay. So there was a lot of awkward reality in that movie and a lot of relatable moments, but I wouldn't say it was exactly like that, you know. But there's definitely like him wanting to skateboard in the movie and kind of be cool. Yep. I can kind of relate to that. And being overlooked or being like ignored as an Asian guy, almost no matter what you did. You thought, like, I thought I was cool growing up, and I still believed I was, but I always knew there was something that was not making me as equal. And it was just, you know, sometimes product market fit.
Okay.
You know, like I always tell Asian dudes, like, or Asian people, or anybody, this for anybody, it's like, if you don't feel like you fit somewhere, like, hopefully you can gain some freedom and you can go somewhere else. Like, this world is getting smaller. Everything's connected. There's so much information about every place you want to go. maybe there's too much information about all the places you want to go. And part of what I do on the channel is like tell people like, hey, if you guys don't like where you live, like here's a look at all these cities you could move to that are more comfortable for you, you know. But obviously as a kid you don't really have that freedom, right? You're just living, you're just growing up where you're growing up. But when we did have that freedom, we went to LA and started pursuing media. So
what was life like in LA? Coming from, and when you think about Washington, was it a large population? Were you're at the town you guys grew up?
Yeah, so I did have some Asian friends. They're mostly Southeast Asian. And then when I got to college, there was obviously more Asians at University of Washington. So I don't want to say there was like no Asians where I grew up. But when we moved to LA, actually, I'm not gonna lie, like it was sort of a culture shock. Because I hadn't really spent that much time in an Asian enclave before. So first year we moved to Koreatown, technically an Asian enclave in the city. And then we moved to the 626, which is like Monterey Park, Alhambra. And it was interesting at first. It was a little bit lonely at first too, even though thankfully we had each other, me and David. But yeah, I mean, jumping into YouTube when you first move somewhere is kind of weird because you're kind of, YouTube at its nature for most of the time, at least when you're starting off, is super isolating. Like you have to spend a lot of time like editing and doing all that stuff, and you gotta just work with who you can work with. So yeah, but I mean, LA was eye-opening too, and so you know we met a lot of good people, and you know we made a lot of good content, you know, and I think now we're just on our next chapter. You know, you pulled up to my apartment in New York, and you know who knows what the next 5 years is going to be. It's actually there's a lot of things changing. Yeah.
So if you were to describe your next 5 years as a chapter in a book, what would those chapters be about for you and David?
It's almost like another age of exploration. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My brother's in Bangkok right now for 5 months.
Wow.
So he's exploring opportunities out there, networking, and it's a buzzing city, buzzing place. We haven't traveled in 5 years, 6 years, right? So yeah, I mean, it's interesting, you know, and I got some decisions I need to make in the next several months too, you know, but I think I ultimately want to be based out in New York. But as far as traveling, I don't know. I mean, who knows what holds in our future, because I think for me and David, I think I'm thankful, if this may answer a future question you're asking, I am thankful that we're able to move to different places and build positive relationships with people. And I think that's something I'm very proud of, in that 97% of our relationships, 98% of our relationships or interactions are good. I budget for 2% of just like, it was a bad day, you know, it was like not aligned, you know, like you caught me at the airport, I was like 2 hours of sleep or something like that. Or I was grumpy, or I was in a rush. But like, or there was a misunderstanding. But essentially, I'm pretty happy with the relationships that we've built in every place that we've gone. You know, especially New York City, a lot of good interactions and relationships here. So I think that's a note where you know, go where you can build positive relationships. I think that's really key. You know, and it might not be where you grew up, to be honest. Where you grew up might not be the place you should stay forever. And you should like keep that in mind, you know? I mean, you've moved too, or you know, your family's moved, so you know what it is. Different environments offer different opportunities, a different network, a different vibe. That's the quickest way to change your life and the things you do on an everyday basis, is not try to cut off your friends and switch friend groups, is literally move environments.
Wow.
And I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm just saying it's the simplest.
Yeah.
Yeah, just move. But again, not easy, just simple.
Considering you guys moved from like West Coast to now East Coast, and now David is several months in Asia, all the cities and states and countries you've been to, what would you say are the most memorable places?
I mean, I got to give it up to the SGV still. You know, that's kind of where we, every time I go back and see my friend Nelly, it's always a good time. And, but I don't know. I mean, they're all special, man. I wouldn't stay there for multiple years if it wasn't special. Okay. We wouldn't spend time. If it's unmiraculous, we're not staying there.
Okay.
You know, whether it's Shanghai, obviously Bangkok's really buzzing right now, Hong Kong in a different way, SGV LA, love New York City, of course. I don't know. I think we kind of, I don't want to say we're nomads, but I feel like we can find homes everywhere we go, which I think is different, and it's just a different lifestyle than some other people, I guess.
Due to relationships and the people that you know.
And the network, and you know, everywhere I go, I would like to think that I contribute to everywhere I go too. Like, I would like to think that I contribute more to New York than I take away.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's all you can want as a transplant.
That's right.
Literally, is like you add to the place that you go to.
Yep.
And that, you know, some local people and some good local people really rock with you. And I think that's important. Because if the locals don't rock with you, then you're clearly taking something away from them.
So what's going really well for your life so far? Now that you're in New York, I know you and David are working on a lot of projects. Tell us more. And today, what's really cool was I asked Andrew what's his drink of choice. He actually, you said this brand is...
Wild Wonder. That's an Asian American owned brand. I don't even know this person, Rosalie, but I just had it at a party and it was really good. We also have some other Asian American drinks here. You want to pull them up?
Yeah, for sure.
You got Win Coffee Supply. Shout out to Sarah. Amazing Vietnamese coffee.
Yep.
You got Sanzo in there. Sanzo, the fruit seltzer. That's like the Asian spindrift. That's whatever. And then you got Smala sauce, chili oil. That's mine. What's going well for me? My health. I think I'm in good shape. I think I have probably the best, I guess, physique I've ever had, which is good. Getting older, but still better in a different way. And I think my mental health has gotten a lot better. Like emotional health too. Like emotional maturity and mental health is pretty good. Like other than that, hustling, you know, still seeing where Smala goes, working hard, got some cool collabs, but I'm not gonna say like, oh, that's like, you know, I'm still in the building stages for a lot of that stuff. So as far as like me personally, I feel like I'm doing well.
Awesome.
Like my body, like my spirit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about like mental health, let's talk a little bit about Asian male and mental health.
Yeah.
I think last time we were connecting.
We're Asian dudes.
Yeah, Asian male.
We know a lot of Asian dudes.
I heard that you spoke at, was it Washington
University?
Yeah.
In St. Louis.
In St. Louis, okay.
Yeah, and
what was that topic about?
Yeah, it was about, I mean, to quickly break down kind of what I said, and I'm not an expert, but I'm definitely somebody who's thought about it. And this just appeals to any immigrant kid, but, you know, I framed it as far as towards Asians, like, I think there is a difference between Eastern and Western communication between parents and kids, and, you know, especially as immigrants, and you have kids who grow up in America. Of course, there's going to be this dynamic where there's this generational difference, and not just generational, but cultural difference between the kid and the parent.
Yep.
And literally it can happen like that. The parents come here, they remain in the immigrant mindset and culture, which is understandable, nothing wrong with, but then the kid becomes ultra Americanized and thinks totally different and has a different way of communicating. You know what I mean? And I think in modern Western mental health terms, you know, people communicate openly in a Western way. I consider that a Western way. You know, like, I don't know, you can take it back to the Socratic seminar or whatever, like, hey, open forum, everybody talk, you know, whatever, like, but then the Eastern way, at least the way it's manifested in a lot of immigrant parents, it's very cold, compressed, you know. It's like, in a Western way, you're expressing more, but in the Eastern way, it feels like you're reporting more to your parents. That's you know, like your parents are like, how you doing? Did you eat yet? Rick, did you eat? Did you do your homework?
Yeah.
Are you doing good? How you feeling? Da 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 da. Like tell me that you're at an A+ level of everything.
Sure.
Like your stomach's full, A+.
Yep.
You did your homework and you got an A+. Your test was an A+. And then, but it's not as much expressing, right?
No.
So I think at some point in a relationship between kids and parents, and maybe it doesn't have to happen when you're 3 years old, because 3 years old, you just need good instructions at 3. But like when you're old enough that you can express something to your parents and start communicating in that way. But of course, there's a language barrier oftentimes. So that makes it a little bit harder. So I'm just pointing out that is a common issue and that people are not alone in that issue. And also, like, you know, I think especially East Asian culture is kind of like serene, solemn, cold. You ever seen those Chinese paintings where it's like the mountains and then the lake, and then there's like
forest,
one dude,
the rivers.
and then there's one fisherman like in the middle of the boat, really small.
I think my parents still have that painting in their
Yeah,
home
exactly.
right now.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. There's like, yeah, there's only one of them.
Yeah.
And everybody has it. No, but like, it's so like introspective, and like in a way, it's beautiful because it's deep, but also you're like, hey, where's the joy in this art? Like, is there, you know, like this is so like you know the story of Chang'e and Ho Yi. This is the Mid-Autumn Festival story where like Ho Yi's waiting for Chang'e, and he's waiting by the river, waiting for her to come back from the moon for like 50 years or something. You know, it's like so serene and solemn. You know, but I think to contrast like Western art, it is a little bit more lively and expressive overall. You know, and then yeah, but also, you know, I know a lot of people like want to go to their parents first about their mental or emotional health issues, and I like.
Do you think that's true, especially in the Asian community?
No, all right. So you know what I should say? Sorry, not that everybody goes to their parents first, but I think don't feel bad if your parents don't understand at first, because they're not really supposed to. Like this one time, I was like, we were having a conversation with my mom, the 3 kids of us, and this was fairly recently, and we were, or a few years ago, and we were kind of talking about where we grew up and like how like, you know, well, it was like, you know, we didn't feel like accepted into groups, or we went through these certain social and mental struggles growing up. And then my mom, because she was a house mom and raised us, she started feeling like we were blaming her. And I didn't want that, but based off what we had said, she was like, what, are you blaming me? Like, because like, you know, what do you think? Because I didn't work a job, I was raising you guys, and then, so you're blaming me for the show. It sounds like you're blaming me. And I was like, no, that's actually not what I meant, but I can see why you thought that. And I was like, I don't want you to feel that way. That's not what I'm doing, you know? But I think that there's so much that the Asian parents take on sometimes. Like, they feel so responsible for your life in a good and bad way.
Yep.
It can be toxic too, but they feel like they take on so much for your life, so that if you hate your life, then, or you complain about your life even, then they think that you're trying to blame
It's
them.
partially their fault.
Yeah, right. That's how they feel. And it's like, you know, so there's just basically what I'm getting at is a lot of the communication that happens, you know, with, you know, between an Asian child and their immigrant Asian parent. But yeah, as far as Asian dudes, we definitely need to have good, safe bro spaces. Like, someone in your friend group needs to buy an expensive car, and then you just talk things out like this.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
We drive around.
Yeah, or it doesn't have to be expensive. Just a car.
Yeah.
Talk about it with your friends. With
community.
bros. Yeah, community, and you can find it through online, I guess, you know. But I think in person is the best. And, you know, if you're able to connect with other people, I think that's and just talk it out with your friends first. And I think obviously therapy is always on the table, but like, I think the stigma of getting a therapist is changed a lot
For sure.
in the past 10 years, 10, 15 years, you know. It used to be weird if you had a therapist.
Yep.
But now it's like everybody has it. Now, I don't think that solves everything, and that's not the only, you know, solution, but finding a good community of you know, is
People
important.
that are acceptance and understanding.
Yeah.
Where you can always just share where you are, your thoughts.
Yeah.
And just listen. I
Yeah.
think it's very, very important.
I have some really good friends who I can call them up out of the blue, and they're across the country, and like, you know, we can just talk. And we understand that we all have things we need to get off our chest, and sometimes we just want a different perspective.
Yep.
And I think that having those type of friends is really important. So,
For sure.
yeah.
I don't know about you, but growing up, how guys bond, at least from my experience in New York, was guys would talk a lot of crap, right? Especially you and David play ball. I'm sure on the basketball court, you're probably talking a good amount of smack. So,
Yeah.
Like for guys, at least from my experience and opinion, guys are always talking crap, always saying things to each other.
Yeah.
But that was their bonding moment, right? They would shit on each other, but that's their way of bonding.
Yeah.
But now, especially like I'm at a stage and place in my life where some of my guy friends, they would call me and then we're like, hey, what's up? And we're talking about like what parenting is about, We're talking about
like you're almost just delving into a very serious, deep conversation
serious and deep
right
conversation.
away.
For
You're
sure.
cutting through the joking, like, oh, Rick, what are you up to? Blah, 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 blah. It's just like straight to the, hey, man,
Yeah.
let's talk about some real shit.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, especially with mental health, I think it's such a real thing that is in society that unfortunately is not talked about enough. But for men, it's a lot harder because for guys to bond, we're talking crap. For girls to bond, I see my wife and her friends, they're supporting each other. They're saying, how's your day? That's beautiful. Like you're cooking, your dress is beautiful. Guys, like if I say, hey bro, like that's a really nice shirt, and you're like, yo, that's a little too much. But when we start talking about like, hey, what, you know, congratulations, you just had a new child. What's it like? And it's like, it's hard. And I was like, tell me more about it. It's so reassuring that as men we're evolving to a place where I think personally, when you're talking about not just like tough things or talk about sports, you could talk about other things to open up and support one another. I think that's very important because I don't know if I can have the same conversations with my mom as I can have with my father, but knowing that I can have those same conversations with my boys who I grew up with, it's showing that society's changing.
Yeah, and I think we shouldn't discount that building strong boys stage where we're just ripping on each other and we're trying to win and we're trying to compete and we're punching each other, whether it's in training or you're actually fighting each other or whatever it is in competition. Like that competitive side, I think when we're younger is very key.
For sure.
Right? But when you grow older, that's like a beautiful thing of like, you know, your friends calling you up and it's just like, you're not even asking like the little details anymore, like, oh, what you been eating, bro? It's just like, hey, man, I'm having a rough time.
Yeah.
Let's talk. And you're just like, cool. And I think everybody acknowledging that conversation is actually going to be beneficial for both parties is helpful. Because if one party feels like they're taking the weight of being a therapist and not gaining something from it themselves, you know, or you know that, hey, you might have to call on him another time too. And so, you know, then you're able to exchange kind of I guess favors or, you know, exchange communication. So yeah, man, but it's so funny when like people, they say, oh, like, you know, like when I always have this joke, like instead of like on Saturdays I do boxing and it's like, hey man, girls are at brunch, I'm punching.
Yeah.
They're
you
lunching,
and your boys
they're
are
brunching, we're just training, you know. But it's just different. I mean, I think women bond also that way too, but just less often. Yeah. You know, and men can bond over brunch too, but I think the physical aspect is, man, that's really. Are you doing any sort of martial arts right now?
Yeah. So I'm in Muay Thai, MMA.
Nice. I think you said your kid is in it.
Yeah, my son's.
Yo.
It's funny because a few months ago I posted where it was a Saturday. At 9 o'clock, my son and I, we would go to MMA Muay Thai. My wife will bring my daughters to dance. So the girls are doing like ballet, the boys are doing like punching, sparring.
Pretty traditional.
Very traditional, right? But and actually that's when we asked my son, what do you want to do? Like we let him pick 3 activities. And instead of being, I don't know about you growing up, my parents would tell me what are my 3 activities. I asked him what is his 3 activities. He picked chess, he picked fencing, and Muay Thai. When there was a choice of like other sports or something he really enjoys, such as like basketball, he's like, no, Dad, Mom, I want to try something new. I want to learn something different.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now I gotta see how Rick reacts when his son is at 18 and is like, hey Dad, you know, I've been doing Muay Thai. I kind of want to be a pro fighter. And see what you say. What are you gonna say?
If he wants to be a pro fighter, he has to be in the UFC and he has to win the belt. That's it. All right? You gotta. What am I gonna say now? But
listen, son, if you want to be a pro fighter, you better be the best one ever, or I'm not gonna love you. Yeah. Classic. No, I'm just kidding. But but that is. I know what you mean.
Yeah. No, honestly, like I've thought of it because, but believe it or not, you have some boys that are in like martial arts too, right?
What do you mean?
Like they practice martial arts, boxing.
What do you mean?
Right?
I don't have kids.
I don't know. I'm saying like amongst your friends.
Oh yeah.
After being a part of martial arts like the last like 2, almost 3 years now, I think the people that practice martial arts are sometimes the people that are not violent at all.
Yeah.
They have the most self-control. So if you said my son is 18 years old and he wants to be mixed martial arts professional, honestly, I just want him to be happy.
Right.
And I kid you not, I don't want him to get hurt. Obviously, no parent want their children to get hurt.
I mean, he will get hurt.
He will get hurt, but as long as he understands his body,
Yeah.
and he's not. I don't want him to do it for the money. Because if I do what we're supposed to do right, and I always teach this, I don't really care what my kids be when they grow up, as long as we do what's right, so that we can provide them the support and the foundation to be what they want to be. But I guess if it's just truly his passion and he really enjoys it, I'd be 100% on being recorded right now. I would support him.
Do you think about what you want your kids to value growing up? Like what, maybe, I don't know if you want to share them all, but what are the values that you're instilling on your kids where you're like, because when you say, son, your family does well, you have some means to support them in what they want, but then you give them the freedom to do what they want, how do you know that they're not going to do something frivolous?
Sure.
And how are you going to tell them? Because you have to instill them with good values, right? And a good kind of navigation system. Absolutely.
So we put a lot of different practices in place. So as mentioned, when it comes to activities, we share with him his schedule. And if he says, Dad, Mom, I want to do more than these 3 activities.
He was like, I want to game for 6 hours.
I want to game for 6 hours. For example, that's not part of the options. So we let him pick his options, but fundamentally, we're not going to give him options that we don't think at his age it's right for him.
No, you're still making decisions. You're still making a limp for sure.
For sure. But I think ultimately, when it comes to helping our children, as we add things on his plate, respectfully, we take things off the plate. So it's kind of like even with toys, as the holidays are coming up, Christmas is coming up, he just had his birthday and he had like 20 gifts. We did not allow him to open them all up at once. We say, hey, 1 gift at a time. And when there's certain too much, we actually say, hey, you have a lot of gifts, but there's other children that don't have as much as you may have. Why don't we take one of your old gifts and we donate it? Or if you want to open this next gift, can we give this other gift to your siblings or to someone else, your neighbor? Right. And I do agree with you. It's always going to be that fine line. Growing up, I promise you, I don't know your childhood upbringing, but your parents are much more educated. They went to
they went
college.
to college.
Yeah, my parents were high school graduates. My mom was a cashier. My dad was a chef. I had the complete opposite of what I have now. But then we have grit. Now they say that when your kids get older, if you provide them with some sort of financial stability or foundation and support, they may not have that.
How do you build that grit?
How I build that grit, in my opinion, is I'm constantly putting them through challenging situations, and I want them to taste failure, loss. A great example, my son just started playing chess. I spank him every single game. Like even to a point where I'm like, hey son, you lost, let's play again, let's play again. And I can tell emotionally he's not feeling good, and every time we finish playing chess, I would say, hey Midas, good game. And I'll make him shake hands, like good sportsmanship. After losing like 20 games in a row, you could see his eyes are like teary eyes, and I was like, hey, we're not done. So I don't know how to explain it, but I guess there are ways for teaching children, regardless of the upbringing, defeat and failure, loss and grit, even at certain stages, because the environment, and I do believe kids that are growing up today, they're gonna go through challenges that you and I never experienced.
Yeah.
Just like we grew up in challenging environments that our parents didn't experience.
Yeah, exactly. No, the world's gonna be different. There's gonna be different challenges.
Yeah. Like every generation. Like
I don't think it has to be like only working at your parents' restaurant when you're like 13 years old.
That's right.
For like 6 days a week or something like that. Yeah, it doesn't. That's like a more old school. I mean, that still happens, but that's more of an old school struggle.
That's
where
right.
Now there's just gonna be new struggles.
Yeah,
This is a new world.
I'm concerned. I was reading an article recently about how education today, statistically, there are less people learning to read today coming out of school than ever before. So like, if you think about this, like you and I, when we were growing up, we were probably more hands-on.
There's less books too.
Less books, but we were more hands-on. Today, with AI, technology, we don't know if there's going to be the same amount of opportunities for these new generations as us.
Well, it'll be different, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they don't need to read. I don't know. They just need to ask good questions to ChatGPT.
That's exactly what I heard. They're like, hey, you don't really need to read it. The computer is going to read it. As long as you know how to understand, like AI, then you're going to be fine.
And make decisions off it, yeah. Well, that's crazy, man.
Yep. What is one mistake that you learned the most from? So as you're embarking this journey, when you and David started to now, if there was one mistake that you learned best from?
And this is very funny because you are part of the journey, but definitely financial literacy and understanding that it would have been cool. But you know, and I say this because there's always like, everybody has a story of when someone introduced to them Ethereum or Bitcoin a long time ago, or oh, you should get into the stock market a long time ago, and they didn't do it because you just had one friend mention it. Now, I think everybody has a time when they're ready for advice and they're ready to take it in. And there's times that even if you heard it from multiple people at that time, you're just not ready for it.
That's right.
And what I regret, and the mistake, I guess, was not being ready earlier enough for good advice, which I thought, this is not about crypto or, oh, I wish I bought crypto, Ethereum when it was $17 or something. It's like, that did happen, but it's like, really just like getting good advice early on and being ready for it. Because even if you get good advice, you have to be ready to take it in. You have to be open and activated. I mean, I think if you're watching your podcast, to be honest, you're probably already thinking about finance, I would assume. But so I wish I was more ready to take in that advice earlier on.
What do you think was preventing you from taking that advice early on?
I mean, just to be honest, like, and this is something about YouTube in general, about the way we did it, man. YouTube is like, I don't report to an older boss. I have no schedule. We make our own schedule. We make our own content. All my editors are other young guys, younger than me. Everybody we work with is younger, barely older. Maybe I worked with a couple directors that are a little bit older than me, but really, like, we're in this space where you're just making content, saying what you want to say, and it's grabbing attention, and you're sometimes working with brands, you're getting these AdSense checks, you're doing this, and you're just living in the moment. And then you're also trying to live a young man life, date, blah, 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 all that stuff. And it's like, I just don't think we were thinking about it. And we didn't realize, because, yeah, I mean, I think part of it is you just think everything's going to keep going fine. And you're just like, yeah, this will just continue. And you're like, I don't know. I'm just only thinking like a month ahead even, So I think, yeah, we're not stupid with our money. I mean, I think we're good at saving, but I wish we started investing earlier on, for sure. And just being immature. Just not, because like if I worked at a company, I'm going to have had conversations with a boss or manager about finances. Or maybe I'm working in finance, or maybe I'm working in accounting, or whatever even if it's marketing, you're still around a lot of older people and mentors. Because that's what it means to be in the professional corporate world, right? Even if I interned at your company, I know, like, I'm gonna have all these financial conversations. We just weren't having financial conversations. Also, our CPA at the time, I don't think it really helped us that much. Although a nice guy, but yeah, I think ultimately it wasn't his fault either. It's just us.
I think we had that conversation where sometimes just the environment and the people you're around.
And we weren't around bad people.
No.
It was just not
top priority.
We just weren't thinking about it. Even, I think we had a few conversations here and there with other people. They mentioned it. But it's just like, we were just like, oh yeah? Oh cool, all right, yeah, you gotta start investing and buy index funds. Yeah. All right, whatever. Yeah. So, but other than that, I don't think as far as big mistakes, like, maybe we've said certain stuff on the channel or made a couple videos or made a couple jokes that we had to take back, but not a big deal, honestly. Like, considering how many videos we made, and we've never really, like, I've been able to touch on very hard topics and even controversial topics and have reasonable discussions from them. I feel very proud of that.
Wow.
So as far as content-wise, I don't think we made any huge mistakes, We've stayed fairly in line with our values, and if our values have changed, I think we've shared them, you know what I mean? But like, yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't know what else we could have done as far as career-wise.
Back then, social media and Asian representation was very different from now today. So let's talk about K-pop. Let's talk about K-drama. I know you brought this, you and your brother talked about this topic.
Yeah, I've
Just
had a lot of conversations
many
with people
conversations
in
about
real
it.
life too.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of people want to talk to me about what I think the impacts have
Yep.
been, and like, and let's just say, because historically Asian guys, we definitely bear the brunt of being Asian and underrated heavily. So yeah, it's been good for Asian guys overall.
Absolutely.
Now, there's been a number of factors. It's not just K-pop, K-dramas, but I think it's just Asian guys in general. Like, we got more savvy with it, and we got cooler, better. I think also give it up for the regular population. I think they became more open-minded, eating more Asian flavors. If they eat the food and listen to the music, they're gonna be open to meeting you as a person. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I do think, on a dating aspect, I do think more and more non-Asian women are interested in Asian guys, at least curious. They're like taking a look. I feel like they used to not take a look. Now they're taking a look.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes all you need, But on that, I have this funny conversation. Which do you think had a bigger impact, K-pop or K-dramas, on women being attracted to Asian guys?
If I were to think K-pop or K-drama, I would say K-pop.
I actually think it's K-dramas.
Why'd you say that?
Because K-dramas, the characters are more, I guess, common looking. I think K-pop stars, they look like very, I would use the word fabulous, or like
Flawless.
or like their hair is different colors. People just don't dress like that in regular life.
Well, if you go to K-Town or if you go to
I don't know, not
certain
even
parts of New Jersey now.
I don't know, with the crazy, with the
Sure.
blue hair, like, you know what I mean? No, those are like cool. They're cool guys, but I'm saying that I just feel like they're not as regular as the K-drama guy. K-dramas, what they do is they romanticize a more regular Asian guy. I mean, they're still good looking, whatever, in the K-dramas. But I'm saying it's seeing a guy, for women or for people in general in media, to see a guy be romanticized and play a role that is attractive, I think does a lot. It does a ton. Because if you think about it, how much we grew up watching the coolest, like the coolest, most suave, most romantic guys were all like white guys growing up, or black guys, like Denzel.
Yeah.
But Denzel's actually doesn't do too many romance movies. So more like Brad Pitt, the Ryan Gosling, you know what I mean? So I'm saying now you're replacing those in K-dramas with Asian faces, and to people it's like, oh wow, I can imagine it now that they can be romantic. That's my argument for K-dramas.
I think K-drama, to be quite frank, has been around for so long. Some of the best K-dramas were around even the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
So K-drama has been around for such a long time. But I don't know. It seems like most K-dramas, it's a similar theme though. It's like rich guy, poor girl, or rich girl, poor guy, and they fall in love, and then, it's like a Cinderella fairy tale. The reason why I think it's more K-pop is because, actually, no, instead of K-drama, it's somewhere between. Because if you think about like Squid Games on Netflix, that really blew up Asian popularity. If you think about, what is it, like 100 Physical
100.
Physical
yeah.
100, that's not K-drama or K-pop. But
That's
seeing,
more towards K-drama, if I had to say.
Okay.
But I get it.
Yeah,
It's not a K-drama.
it isn't.
But it's more real.
It's showing
Yeah.
like Asian males in a different light, not
Yeah.
like, the CPA, the
Well, I just
engineer.
showing them in a heroic or like way, you know what I mean? And obviously you gotta give it up to all the Asian guys who have done the work in America and other countries, of course. We're not. I don't think all the credit goes to just those two things, but I think that those are the more, I guess, trending things that you would point
Correct.
at. You know what I mean? So
Currently in today's society.
Yo, there's this there's this one quote I heard. Let me know what you think about it. It goes, Japan made the West love their culture. Korea made the West love the men. And then China is the only country that doesn't have to listen to the West.
I think that's pretty accurate and true, right? Considering what's going on. I think K-pop, if you think about it, like BTS armies. Have you been to like one of those?
Or crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
and it's really diverse.
And right now, the Bruno Mars song,
Yeah.
right, with Rosé,
Rosé,
Blackpink, it's I think it's like number 1 in the charts. So
insane.
I think it's an argument, but tell me what you think, whether it's K-pop or K-drama in the comments. That is probably some good debate right there we could talk about in the future.
I guess, you know what, maybe it's all good either or, the answer, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because it's just everything's helping, everybody standing up for Asians helps, everybody getting fit and making themselves the best version of themselves is helping. So more content like this, Rick is helping. Come on, look at this clean cut Asian American finance wealth manager right here, you know. So this did not exist 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
And same thing what you and your brother are doing in social media, content creating.
Thank you.
The millions of followers. But I don't think people need to know, but in case, for everyone that's watching, how can they follow you, David, Smala Sauce,
yeah,
all the cool projects, businesses you guys are a part of?
Man, I mean,
everything else.
Check the YouTube channel if you haven't in a while. I know that a lot of people, watch a lot of videos. Like, they tell me like, hey, I used to watch your videos, because I don't get as many views per video as I used to. But I'm saying, I think we're talking about, excuse me, this is a bubbly drink.
It's all good.
There's a lot of interesting conversations we're having that I think, you don't have to watch all of them, but you'll find something that is interesting. Stuff that we talked about here, like stuff that I just touched on in this conversation, I literally have like an entire video about that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's still a passion, still going, still a strong voice, still relevant, still standing by our values and our mission statement. And yeah, check out Smala Sauce.
Smala Sauce, amazing. What made you guys create Smala Sauce? Besides,
just ate a bunch of food.
Yeah.
And so we just like all those years of eating food, it's almost like R&D, you know? And then it's like, it was about time. I linked up with this company that helped me put it together, and I linked up with some Greek and Italian guys in a kitchen in Florida, and we made a Italian-inspired mala Chinese chili oil.
Yep.
So I think it's delicious. Put it in a squeeze bottle, different format. It's cool. It's trendy. Highly rated on Amazon.com.
Yep.
Get it on Amazon, and then yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks,
Dude.
Andrew. Appreciate you as always.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Are there really stars outside? Because it's getting dark. You think the stars are out here?
It probably is. But,
We got the stars in here, though.
We got stars all time. We got the stars right here hanging out with us for sure.
Dude.
And once again, giving you homage. You guys were the ones that introduced me to all this.
Oh, yeah, man. No, thank you for doing that. And we got the little Saratoga. This is some of the finest bottled water.
Sparkling water.
Yeah.
We go dry here. Don't drink anymore. Talk about physical health.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you know, I like to good glass once in a while, but yeah, we don't have to drink on camera.
Sure.
Because I'll turn red in like a matter of seconds.
Okay.
Unless you want to.
Yeah. Well, if you want to, or we could go for a wing coffee. What would you like to go for?
I think we should go for the poison.
Okay, the poison. All right, let's do it.
Let's go for the.
So
Let's end with some Macallan.
Let's do it with some Macallan.
All right. I mean, come on, man. We in the rolls. Come on. All right.
Let's do it. So cheers to that.
Yeah, don't do too much. That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go for it.
So what age is this? What is Macallan? What is it?
This is 21.
Cheers to Rick and your new podcast. I'm glad to christen the first episode, and hopefully even all the episodes after this are even better.
Yep, for sure. Thank you. It will be.
That was nice. That was easy.
Nice. Smooth.
That's some good stuff.
It is.
I don't think that's cheap. That's not cheap stuff. Because that went down easy. That was...
I can't drink it, but I would cheers to it.
Okay.
Yeah. But for sure.
All right, I'll take it.
Okay. For sure, brother. I'll drink this.
This
is good. This Wild Wonder mango. Cheers.
All right, I'm drunk. Good thing I'm not driving. Never let me drive this car.